welcome to HITC Sport. Alright, this video is going to annoy a lot of you. I just know it is. When international managers have to trim their squad to 26 players this month, that was enough for most of you to squeal like a bunch of angry piglets. So now, let's pick every Euro 2020 team's best five-a-side. Be what? I'm gonna leave so many good players out here. But remember, okay, just because you're an utter goal machine on an 11-a-side pitch doesn't mean that you're suited to five-a-side. Five-a-side is all about evasive movement, low center of gravity, natural skill and ability on the ball. And let's not forget, it is easy to score in five-a-side. Good Christ, look at this. Christ above, somebody should tell these men that sneezing in the general direction of a player does not count as a tackle. Anyway, be warned, by the time this video is done, and by the time you've seen I've left your favourite player out of the team, you're probably all gonna feel like punching me square in the nose. Right, let's go. Italy. Okay, so Italy's five-a-side team is utterly mouth-watering. Okay, so you're stuffing Gianluigi Donnarumma in nets. Just don't book a Power League pitch in Milan, or he'll have angry Milanistas turning up to throw chunks of ham sandwiches at his head. But yeah, put him in nets, and at the back, you've got Giorgio Chiellini. Yeah, the guy is nearly as old as time itself, but he's another defensive rock who'd probably rather stick his face in a toaster than allow someone to beat him in a one-on-one. Honestly, if you even attempted to nutmeg him in the corner, you'd probably wake up the next morning covered in pig's blood. Anyway, chuck Marco Verratti and Jorginho into the center of the park. Two men who probably both go to bed at night dreaming of 5-yard passes. Honestly, on a five-a-side pitch, you are not getting the ball off either of these guys. And finally, Lorenzo Insigne, a guy dubbed the Italian Messi, a 30-year-old Napoli winger who plays like George Best without the drinking problem. Good Christ, the ball is literally tied to his foot. On a five-a-side pitch, this guy would be an utter nightmare. Switzerland. Alright, it is a bit underwhelming. Alright, Switzerland, Jan Sommer in nets. The ball playing Newcastle defender Fabian Schär in defence. Then chuck both Granit Xhaka and the skillful Xherdan Shaqiri in midfield with the pace of Breel and Bola up front. Yeah, it's a bit underwhelming, isn't it? By the way, try to have many subscribers as soon as possible. If you want to slap a big fat red button, then go ahead, you'd be the absolute best person on planet Earth. Right, let's get back into the video. Turkey have utterly flopped at Euro 2020, but they could probably knock up a pretty decent five-a-side team. Stick Istanbul Başakşehir's Mert Günok in goal. And then I'll give the nod to Juventus' Meri Demiral to control the defence. And then in midfield you got the talent and vision of AC Milan playmaker Hakan Çalhanoğlu alongside Fenerbahce's midfield vision Irfan Kaveci, who, trust me, has the balance to rival someone out of Swan Lake. And then finally, I know Burak Yilmaz is an absolute goal machine out in France with Lille, but I'm sorry, Getafe's former Man City striker Enes Ünal is more suited to five-a-side than Yilmaz, because five-a-side is about pure talent and ability on the ball. Yes, on an 11-a-side pitch, you might have the goal scoring ability of a squash cream egg, but trust me, in tight corners, he'd have step overs and close control to end the careers of defenders. Man City signed this guy in 2015. Clearly they viewed him on the same ability as Jadon Sancho. Offer them Burak Yilmaz instead. Good Christ, Pep Guardiola would sooner eat an entire box of Kleenex tissues. Wales. Fighting down Wales squad at just 5. Again, they'd have a pretty good team. Danny Ward has proven he's a pretty good reflex shot stopper, despite rotting on Leicester's bench. In defence, I'll stick Tottenham left back Ben Davies in there. And then in field, yes, Joe Allen is a bog standard championship midfielder at Stoke, but the guy knows how to pass a football. Have him feeding Real Madrid and Juventus superstars like Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, and suddenly this team would be a contender for the whole tournament. Belgium. Okay, I already know this one is going to be controversial. I know thousands of you are going to disagree with this, because trying to narrow it down Belgium's glittering squad to just 5 players, it's an almost impossible task. Right, in nets, let's go with Thibaut Courtois, obviously, because the alternatives, Simon Mignolet and Matt Sells, both have the reflexes of melted birthday cakes. And then the one defender, I'm going to go with Jan Vertonghen, who is probably the most comfortable on the ball. And then, going forward, well, obviously you're going to want the creativity and vision of Kevin De Bruyne, dominating the play in the center of the park. I know Eden Hazard's career is lying face down in a pig's trough, but I don't care. On a five-a-side pitch, it doesn't matter how many hamburgers he sticks up his nose, his raw ability and skill would utterly eat five-a-side players on toast. You're not getting the ball off this man, and he'd probably be the player of the tournament. And then finally, the last pick. You're probably all expecting Romelu Lukaku, right? The most informed Belgian footballer on the planet. Listen, I rate the guy, and yes, he is a goal machine, but he's demonstrated he has the first touch of a broken couch. And on a five-a-side pitch, you need players with ridiculous skill on the ball, not just goal machines. So my final pick is Yannick Carrasco. I know he just wasted 2 years of his precious career eating chunks of cash out in China, but honestly, anyone who's seen his natural two-footed flair on the ball, his balance and his skill knows that you would rather him than Lukaku on a five-a-side pitch. Denmark. For Denmark, obviously you're going to want to stick Peter Schmeichel's son in nets. I'm pretty sure that when he was 4 years old, that crazy Dane was probably testing his newborn son's reflexes by flinging dinner plates at his head in the kitchen. And you're probably not expecting the defensive leader that like Simon Kjær in defense, right? No. Instead, Chelsea's Andreas Christensen. At times, on 11-a-side pitch, yes, he can look like a lost child in Tesco's. But if the sport was five-a-side, he'd be seen as one of the best defenders on planet Earth. Good gracious, Barcelona tried to sign this guy. So that tells you all you need to know about his natural ability on the ball. In the middle of the park, you'll probably want Borussia Dortmund's Thomas Delaney, just dictating the play with 5-yard passes. Although I'm sorry, Tom Delaney. He sounds like a middle-aged plumber from County Sligo. How is he playing for Denmark with a name like that? And then the final two spots on the pitch, Christian Eriksen, obviously his first touch of vision, providing he gets the green light to return. And then finally, the clinical Yusuf Poulsen of RB Leipzig to bang in the goals up front. Finland. Okay, Finland's five-a-side team predictably isn't anything special, but surprisingly, it wouldn't be complete cow milk either. You've got Bayer Leverkusen's Lucas Hradecky in net, then in defense, Daniel O'Shaughnessy. In midfield, you've got Rangers powerhouse Glenn Kamara, and going forward, an arch goal machine Timo Pukki, alongside the Union Berlin tournament breakout star Johan Panjalopovo. It's not bad. Russia. Okay, while Russia have a pretty bang average 11-a-side team, they probably just have enough to squeak a fairly formidable 5-a-side one. In goal, let's go with Dynamo Moscow's 34-year-old Anton Shunin. In defense, CSK Moscow's 30-year-old Mario Fernandes. Yes, he's a pretty average right back, but good Christ, he was born and bred on the beaches of Brazil. The guy was probably playing futsal before he could bastard walk, so clearly he makes this team. In the center of the park, you got Monaco's Alexander Golovin, who is a skillful 25-year-old with great composure on the ball. Further up the pitch, you've got Atalanta's Alexei Miranchuk, who football hipsters right now are raving about him as if he gave birth to them himself. And finally, Denis Cheryshev. Yes, I realize he's currently an injury-prone wet stain of Valencia's bench, but he's probably the most naturally gifted footballer in Russia's entire squad, and spent 14 years on the books of Real Madrid. You don't spend nearly 2 decades in the biggest club on planet Earth if you don't know how to play five-a-side. Austria. If you narrow down Austria's team to just 5 players, just file away all the bang average footballing sludge, it would actually be a pretty competitive team. First of all, you've got Watford's 26-year-old Daniel Bachmann between the posts. Okay, it's not great. Moving on. In defense, you've got Real Madrid superstar David Alaba, popping passes into midfield with razor-sharp vision. In midfield, you'll have RB Leipzig's Marcel Sabitzer alongside Bayer Leverkusen's Julian Baumgartlinger. I reckon they'd make a pretty decent midfield partnership. And then up front, yes, he's currently washed up in China, but still, Shanghai's Marko Arnautovic clearly still has the close control and finishing in tight quarters to be an utter futsal demon in the court. Just maybe you stop talking about Alioski's mother. Netherlands. Okay, I don't care that Frank de Boer has given the #1 goalie gloves to Martin Stekelenburg. The guy is only 40 years of age and must surely have knees as sturdy as Dale Weetabix. Put him on a five-a-side pitch. He'd be like that fat old man goalie you see at Power League. So I'm picking the sensible option, Tim Krul. You know, a penalty expert, and as far as shot-stopping reflexes go, are we forgetting he set a Premier League record with 14 saves in one game for Newcastle back in 2013? You're damn right he'd be an utter shot-stopping monster in five-a-side. In defense, yes, Nathan Ake is a pretty naturally gifted ball-playing defender, but so is Matthijs de Ligt, who was brought up in the Ajax Academy. In midfield, you'll have the strength and creativity of Jorginho Wijnaldum, and don't forget, he's so much more than a city midfielder. The guy once scored 4 goals in a Premier League match, so yes, he can turn it on attacking-wise when he wants. Alongside him as Frankie de Jong is balance, close control and vision on a five-a-side pitch. Nobody would ever get the ball off him. And finally, up front, the maverick skill of Memphis Depay. See, this is a ridiculously good team. Would probably reach the final. North Macedonia, Alioski, Pandev. I'm out. Pass. Next, Ukraine. Okay, for Ukraine, admittedly this isn't a great team, as you got Shakhtar Donetsk veteran Andrei Pyatov stuck in nets, then Man City's Alexander Zinchenko at the back. In midfield, chuck in Atalanta's Ruslan Malinovsky, who everyone seems to rave about as if he's the second coming of Christ itself. Beside him, this is a strange one, but you know what? I'm gonna pick Shakhtar Donetsk 32-year-old attacking midfielder Marlos. Of course, he was born and raised in Brazil. He's going to utterly rip the floor with people at five-a-side. And finally up front, the skill of West Ham's Andrei Yarmolenko. Listen, it's not a perfect team and probably wouldn't go far in the competition, but the best I could do. Croatia. So for Croatia, Chuck Dynamo Zagreb's Dominik Divakovic in nets, and then holding down the defense. You're probably all expecting an utter Champions League winning superstar like Dejan Lovren, right? Lads, no, on a five-a-side pitch, you'd rather stick a disabled guinea pig in defense than Dejan Lovren. Instead, let's go for the far more reliable Simo Vrasco, a 29-year-old Atletico Madrid fullback who Diego Simeone has probably drilled into that defensive mistakes at Atletico result in your family pets getting chucked in a blender. In midfield, you'll obviously want a Ballon d'Or winner like Luka Modric, a guy who you can guarantee would never give the ball away in a five-a-side pitch. Beside him, Chelsea fans are probably screaming from Teo Kovacic, right? Nah, I'd rather eat my own arm, especially when you can pick former Chelsea boy and Atalanta midfielder Mario Pasalic. Him and Modric on the five-a-side pitch, trying to get the ball off them. You'd go home that night, curl up in the fetal position and cry yourself to sleep. And finally, the attacking outlet in the final third of the pitch, I'm going to go with Hoffenheim's Andrej Kramaric. Not only is he a goal machine, but the 29-year-old former Leicester sub is one of those players where the ball is literally glued to his feet. Czech Republic. Okay, Czech Republic's five-a-side team is utterly uninspiring. You've got Sevilla's Thomas Vakic in goal, then West Ham's Vladimir Kufal at the back. I'll stick Sampdoria's Jan Kankto in midfield, alongside another hammer like Thomas Soucek. And finally up front, you got the skill of Bayer Leverkusen's Patrick Schick. England. Yeah, this is a team where I will have people comparing me to a mentally impaired billy goat. But lads, I think we can all agree Jordan Pickford has the passes and reflexes for a five-a-side. Great. And in defence, you'd probably rather John Stones' creativity on a five-a-side pitch than Harry Maguire, right? Okay, great. Now this is where things get tricky. I'm going to go for Phil Foden in the centre of the park. Sure, he could wind up being the next Jack Wilshere and applying for jobs at B&Q when he's 30. Or he could wind up being one of the most naturally gifted midfielders England have ever produced. Going forward, chuck the twin perils of both Jadon Sancho and Raheem Sterling on that pitch, and this is utterly a terrifying five-a-side team. But yes, I know, I've left out Harry Kane for Raheem Sterling. Well lads, yes, Kane is one of the best goal machines on planet Earth on an 11-a-side pitch, but on a 5-a-side, you need to focus on dribbling and keeping the ball. I'm pretty sure Sancho and Sterling are both able to score goals in 5-a-side. It's the lightning quick footwork of those two. It would be utterly terrifying. Most defenders would be paralysed with fear. Factor in the fact that Man City's entire ethos is a club modelled on Barcelona. And lads, all four outfield players I picked here have spent a combined 25 years on the books of Manchester City. Put them on a five-a-side pitch. Oh, good night. Scotland. You know what, lads? I actually think Scotland would have a pretty good five-a-side team. In goal, I'm going to go with Craig Gordon. Yes, he must have limbs held together by sellotape, but don't forget, this Hearts #1 is a brilliant shot stopper. In defence, I'll go for Arsenal's two-footed Kieran Tierney, who has the vision to control the game from the back. Then pushing into midfield, you want young Billy Gilmore in there, controlling the tempo in the centre of the park. Alongside him is Andy Robertson, who I'm going to push into midfield, but that's his engine, is ability on the ball. He can play anywhere on this pitch. And then up front, the final third of the pitch, yes, the Scotland strikers are a big bag of cow piss. But you know what? I'd give John McGinn the creative freedom to just be this team's source of goals. Poland. Alright, Poland's team, well obviously you'll have Juventus' #1 Wojciech Szczesny in goal. And then I'll stuff Southampton's Jan Bednarek into defence. In midfield, you'll have Leeds' Matthijs Klich controlling things in the centre of the park, alongside the skill of Napoli's Peter Zielinski. And then up front, I mean, who else? Robert Lewandowski. Slovakia. Okay, this isn't exactly the most inspiring five-a-side team on the planet. In nets, you'll have Martin Dubravka, who's a fairly good shot stopper. In defence, you'll have Inter Milan's colossal giant of a man, Milan Skriniar, who honestly looks like a taxi driver who eats human flesh on his couch. In midfield, who else but Marek Hamšík? Yes, I know he plays in a Swedish village, but he's arguably the country's most talented player in decades. And then going forward, I'll pick Napoli's talented midfielder Stanislav Lobotka. And then up front, I don't care that Vladimir Weiss is a washed-up 31-year-old journeyman winger on the books of Slovan Bratislava. Yes, the former Man City winger has had a career about as underwhelming as wet spinach for tea. But I remember his quick feet, his trickery, his link-up play with Robinho in Europe. I'm pretty sure he'd be another baller on a five-a-side pitch. Spain. Okay, stop this nonsense. Yes, David Gea is currently football's answer to Kirk Van Houten. It's just sad what's happened to him. But I don't care. On a five-a-side pitch, there are very few keepers in world football who have better reflexes than him. You're damn right he's getting the #1 goalie gloves for five-a-sides. On a power league pitch, I'm convinced he'd eat clean sheets for breakfast. In defence, you've got the world-class composed Man City defender Emerick Laporte. And then in midfield, I know Sergio Busquets currently has the stamina of Deji in a boxing ring, but five-a-side, it's very limited running. And so yeah, with his footballing brain, he'd be an utter nightmare to get the ball off. Alongside him, I'll choose Barcelona's 18 midfield superstar Pedri, who I'm convinced is the second coming of Andres Iniesta. And going forward, I'm not even going to pick an attacking player, just put in Liverpool's Thiago Alcantara. With these players, you don't need a goal scorer because you're simply not getting the ball off a trio of Busquets, Pedri and Thiago. With quick one-touch passing, they will walk the ball into your net. Sweden. I'll go for Everton's number 2 goalie Robin Olsen in nets. Manchester United's defensive cheese sandwich Victor Lindelof at the back. Let's just hope he doesn't come up against a strong centre forward, or he'll collapse like a tower of sweaty Pringles. In midfield, I'll go for RB Leipzig's Emil Forsberg controlling the ball, with the 2 attacking players being Juventus's 21-year-old wing wizard magician Dejan Kulusevski. And then finally up front, Alexander Isak of Real Sociedad. France. Again, trying to narrow down France's ridiculous array of attacking talent in just 5 players. I know this is going to chew so many of you up inside. Okay, let's go slowly. Tottenham's Hugo Lloris in nets, fine. Then, Real Madrid legend Rafael Varane in defense. Okay, great. This is where things get tricky. I'm going to completely bypass picking a midfield player, instead going for an attacking trio of Antoine Griezmann, Kylian Mbappe, and yes, Olivier Giroud. Most of you will react to this as if I've just given a pair of football boots to Will and E. But lads, anyone who saw Giroud's role in the Wiltshire v Norwich goal in 2013, or anyone who appreciates his skill and first touch in the most impossibly tightest of corners on a football pitch, would understand why I think Giroud is one of the most technically superb players suited for 5-a-side football on the planet. Germany. Again, trying to narrow down Germany's attacking options is very difficult, but let's start off easy. The one-on-one goalkeeping rock Manuel Neuer in nets, then the world-class versatile Bayern Munich superstar Joshua Kimmich controlling the ball in defense, and then I'll go for Man City's technically excellent Ilkay Gundogan in midfield. Then going forward, I'm pretty sure Chelsea wonderkid Kai Havertz would utterly clean up on a 5-a-side pitch. And then finally, listen, yes, I rate Serge Gnabry, but Leroy Sané, especially on a 5-a-side pitch, would be one of the most devastating players on planet Earth. Trying to tackle his lightning quick feet, his deceptive balance, and continuous droppings of that damn shoulder, you'd be spending that night picking out chunks of astroturf from your teeth. Hungry. I don't know, Peter Galaxy in goal, Will Orban in defense, Adam Nagy in midfield, Kevin Varga and Adam Salai. Next, Portugal. One of the hardest teams to pick in the list. Portugal's golden generation right now is utterly ridiculous. Alright, first off, you've got Wolves' Portuguese legendary Patricio between the posts. Of course, Man City powerhouse defender Ruben Diaz at the back. And now this is where it gets tough. Okay, you'll have to chalk Manchester United's superstar Bruno Fernandes in the middle of the park. And beside him, you know what? I'm going to pick Atletico Madrid's teenage sensation João Felix. He's a 21-year-old La Liga champion who cost over 100 million euros. I'm sorry, Bernardo Silva. Yes, your trick feet and visionary would be unbelievable on a 5-side pitch, but I'm just sneaking Felix in there ahead of you. And then the last pick will obviously Jose Font. No, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, nothing more needs to be said, and I'm gonna say it. With that 5-a-side team, would be the greatest 5-a-side team on planet Earth. There's literally no weakness. They would win everything. And I do mean everything. Anyway, after those, let me know in the comments below. Just bring it on. Bring on the disagreements. I know you're all gonna hate my picks, but let me know. Maybe I've got it right. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.